Another one is that they put the fear of men in you. Some people believe that the opposite sex is so dangerous that if you even look at a man, you'll just be like Lot's wife and just turn into a pillar pimp of salt. How are you going to meet people with everybody's brother, sister? How the church is keeping you single. So I have wanted to create this video for the longest, and I thought, you know what, let me do this video today finally. If you're like me, then you identify as a Christian, and then this video in particular are for my fellow Christian sisters. So you might have been going to church for a minute and you're like, where is my husband? Where is my Jacob? Where is my Adam? And you start to maybe think that there's an issue wrong with you. There might be. I'm not saying that there is. There might be. But one thing I'm observing is, in a way, the church is part of the problem. It's crazy because you would think that the church will help you solve certain issues or help you with certain desires. But sometimes, as a body, we fall short. And I'm going to be sharing with you how I think the church is keeping you single. The first one is matchmaking, right? So you might have heard someone say that, you know, they don't really advise matchmaking, that they've tried to help people get with another person and it hasn't worked out for them, yada yada yada. But if we actually go back to the Bible, there are 4 examples I can give. Originally it was 1, and then I was reading something today and then they highlighted another 2, and then I remembered another 1. I was just like, wow. So if you're familiar with the Bible, in the book of Genesis, the story of Isaac and Rebecca. Isaac had lost his mother. He was this 40-year-old man, lost his mother, and was really upset about the death of his mother, to the point that even when his mother had died, it took a while for him to be comforted by his mother. And the only way he got comforted actually was when God brought him Rebecca, his wife. You need to read the story, but I'm going to try and really summarize the story. So Isaac's dad was a man called Abraham. And Abraham had this servant who he really trusted, like this worker called Eliezer. So Abraham said to Eliezer one day, like, hey, Eliezer, I really need you to do me a big favor. I need you to go back to where I come from and go and find a beautiful wife from that place for my son. Eliezer wasn't really a believer, you know, and we know this because he now says in certain aspects, you know, the God of Abraham, like he distanced himself away from God. Yeah. So Eliezer's like, okay, that's fine, but how am I going to meet somebody? And then Abraham's literally like, just pray about it. God will bring a good woman for my husband. So Eliezer now journeys to where Abraham is from, which is Canaan, I believe. Yeah. And then when he gets there, he actually starts to pray and be like, you know, Lord, I want you to bring me the woman that you have specially made, specially kept for Isaac, and I want her to be able to do this, and this. Like a very bold prayer. And then he was like, okay, if the person does this, and this, then I will know that this is the one that you have for Isaac. Fine. And God being God, because God is so amazing, God is just amazing, and he blows my mind. God does stuff sometimes, you're like, how on earth was he able to do that? But he's God, like, he's limitless, you know? So Eliezer prayed something to the effect of, I want a damsel, you know, a young lady to offer me water and water to my camels or my cattle. And lo and behold, here comes Rebecca, and what does she do? Offers water to Eliezer as well as his cattle. I think that as cattle bit, I think that's like an extra thing she did. I'm not sure if he prayed for that. So as he was speaking to God about this request that he had, there and then God answered that prayer. And then anyway, Rebecca did that, and then Eliezer was like, hey, you want to get married? I've got someone for you in another land you want to go with. And Rebecca was like, hey, match made. Boom. Another example that was brought to my attention today when I was reading a book was Esther and Ruth in the Bible. So your church is keeping you single because they speak against matchmaking. Esther in the Bible was low-key, high-key matchmade, and so was Ruth. With Esther, Esther was a slave that entered a different land, and in that land, you know, she ended up being part of like the near, basically entering the king's palace. And to cut the whole long story short, she was chosen to be the king's wife. She was like, hey, you're going to be the king's wife, match made. Ruth as well came from one area to another area with her mother-in-law because her former husband had passed away. And then the mother-in-law encouraged her to strategically position herself to be found by Boaz. Low-key, high-key matchmaking. And the last one that came to my mind, that's like, Holy Spirit, thank you for this one, was Moses. If you don't know, you're going to know now. I would love to meet Moses in heaven. I just think he is quite an underrated Bible character. Like, I think he's an amazing person. So Moses, as we know, well, some of us might not know, let me not assume. Moses was in Egypt. And Moses killed an Egyptian, and then he had to flee. And he was away from Egypt for the longest time. And then when he had flown elsewhere, he'd fled, he came into contact with his future father-in-law. I can't remember his name. And the father-in-law was like, hey, why don't you get with my daughter? Match made. For example, yet the church will not encourage matchmaking. If you are open to this, you must be a prayerful person. Like, be prayerful. You know, if someone is trying to introduce you to someone and say, oh, this person, look at the person that's even coming forward to introduce you to someone, you know. Pray about it. Do serious vetting. But to say that we shouldn't encourage that at all in the church, I think it's very wrong. Especially where in the Bible there are 4 clear examples, right, where this has happened. And even if you look at certain stories, so with Esther and Ruth, those stories, the central character are women, and both of these women in some capacity were match made. So a reason why the church is keeping you single, they don't encourage matchmaking. Another one is that they put the fear of men in you. Some people believe like the opposite sex is so dangerous that if you even look at a man, you'll just be like Lot's wife and just turn into a pillar pimp of salt. Like, it doesn't play like that. So there's these narratives that are played out in certain churches or amongst certain religious groups that be careful around men, don't do this around men, don't all this, don't, to the point that a woman gets of age, some people you'll be asking the lady, so when are you going to get married? From a young age, you have instilled fear in her about the opposite sex, and then now all of a sudden she's going to loosen up and be ready to meet a man to marry. You have indirectly made that lady embrace and want to be single. Even if the desire is there, even if she wants to be married, because of this fear about, oh, I've learned this about men, don't do this around men, men this, men that, men this, she's just going to be like, well, let me just remain single. This thing about boundaries. You know, there's a book out called Boundaries. I'm still reading it, haven't finished it. Shout out to my sister who bought it from me. Hey. And this is all this talk about boundaries. As much as boundaries are very important, similar to the point I've made before about putting the fear of men, there's certain boundaries that people, you know, urge and put in place. And some of these boundaries are so crippling to the single woman because they do not allow her, they do not afford her to be in a position to meet a man in the church. So things such as, I know there are some churches that men sit on one side, women sit on another side. They don't encourage conversations between the opposite sex, and if it is, it's very like, hello brother, hello sister. I'm like, okay, hello brother, hello sister. How are you going to meet people if everybody's brother, sister? You know, so some of these boundaries, we need to revise them. Yes, put up protective boundaries, but those boundaries that are in place that do not allow you to meet men or women, because I'm sure the brothers can learn from this as well, maybe we need to revise those things. One thing I do not like, and I see this a lot in more Western environments, is they do not create the opportunity for you to meet men. So I know of someone, and their church in Nigeria, they have had various single programs, and it's not so cringing because some of the single programs here, it's like, hello everybody, I'm single, I want to be married, and it's just like, oh my days, I'm not going to attend that type of event. Whereas these events that my friend has been to, they were like group events, so group outings, let's call it group outings, where various people could go and hopefully meet somebody that way. So I feel like in the West there's not enough opportunity for these things, and when they are, they're very female centric. And if you want to get more men to come, then maybe don't label it as a single, you know, and do something adventurous, not just, hey, we're gonna just sit down and do painting. Maybe do something a bit more adventurous. Maybe go for a hike, a group hike. Like, even if you are a Christian and you have a set of Christian friends, men and women, come together as a collective. Like, come together, go on events, go to the events together. You know, that is a way to meet other people and to not be in singledom for the rest of your life. Over spiritualizing. Like, some people, like, my day, when I tell you they over spiritualize things to the point it is not even biblical. Like, you go and ask them, okay, where is this in the Bible? Where is this in the spirit of prophecy? Like, where is this stuff? Like, where did you get this idea from? Oh, you know, this and that. I remember some years back, and some of my girlfriends that are watching this, they will remember this story like yesterday. My friends and I, we had visited this church, and there were women there that with their chest were telling us that essentially it was wrong to be intimate with your husband more than, is it 3 times or 2 times a month? I was looking at these people like, excuse me? Not your boyfriend, not your fiance, your husband. Like, your husband 2 times a month. If you got 2 out of 30 on the test, you'll be upset with yourself. But these women were trying to say that that was okay. They were even trying to bring spiritual. I mean, I did look them like this. The stuff they were telling me to read, and I was reading it like this. I didn't see that from what they were showing me. Over spiritualizing things. So another way that the church is keeping us single is, or keeping people single, is that they tend to speak about failed marriages more than successful marriages. I think this is even just around the internet, just the world as a whole, the humanity. We love to hone in on the bad and not celebrate the good. There are several, even in this sinful world, there are several successful, godly, God-centered marriages, right? I literally have just come back from church. You can see, like, this is what I wore, you know, a cute, you know, looking anyway. I just came back from church, and even like we had an afternoon program, and just when I sit down and deep it, there was actually quite a few happily married couples in the church. Happily married with their children playing around them, or if they've got grown-up kids, the grown-up kid is there. You know, and I think that in itself, because if someone is single and they're constantly seeing bad examples of marriages, that's not going to make them open to marriage. You know, you come on the pulpit, did you know 1 in this 100 of marriages are failing? It's like, sorry, uncle. Hey! Meanwhile, you turn to your left, there's a happy couple there. Turn to your right, there's a happy couple there. Like, I'm not saying we shouldn't talk about the difficulties and the struggles in marriage, but to constantly focus on the bad and not the good, that the good marriages and the good that can come out of marriage is a problem, and it makes people think twice about getting married, therefore leading them to be what? Single. Another one is, if you're a woman, if you're a man, you're courting, and your boyfriend now says, you know what, baby, I can't do it, I want you to be my fiance. I want to spend the rest of my life with you because I can't breathe without you. I can't breathe. I can't breathe without you, baby. I need you in my life. You are the apple of my eye, the breath in me, my heartbeats, my sweet like chocolate, my vanilla, my caramel, I don't know what color you like, my rainbow. So I'm basically saying, like, if you're in a relationship, you're courting, and now the love of your life is about to propose, and he has, boom, popped the question, like, you want to marry me? Like, hey, yeah, girl. Another way, because I believe that you're single until you're married. I'm one of those women. I said it in another video. Check out that video here. Another way that the church keeps people single is When two people now come forth and say, you know what, we want to get married. They've done the, let's say they've done the counselling, premarital counselling, even pre-courtship counselling. They're doing premarital counselling, and they still will be doing it, you know, the counselling. Both parties, parents have met each other. Everything is cushy, beautiful. They will now approach the preacher and say, hello, sir, we want to marry. Then the pastor, the preacher, the whoever will now come up with all this red tape. It happens in many churches, yeah. All this red tape about why they cannot get married in that church, on that date, on this, on this. I know of people, not a person, people, plural, yeah, that have had issues getting married. Not because they were not ready, not because they weren't sure, because of venue. I know of someone that when they were getting married, that they had their eyes set on which was basically their home church at that time. And the home church was like, we're going to charge you this amount. I'm like, what? Why are you charging so much? Then they went to another church locally, right? Got a quote that was, I think, half, like times 3 less or half the price of what they got quoted at their home church. Because some people just think to a point like, you know, I can't be bothered to get married. It's too expensive. It's too this. So they just leave it. So that's even a way how you keep people single. Because I believe you're single until you're married. I also want to say this one. This one is going to be like, really? I alluded to this, or not alluded to this. I made reference to this in a previous video. It's dress. See what dress? What has dress got to do with it? What has what you wear got to do with it? I said in that video, and I stand by that, sometimes as women, the way we conduct ourselves, it repels men. It even repels people around you. And I don't mean that in a horrible way. So sometimes you want to be married and you believe that you're ready for marriage, but your demeanor, your attitude, the way you dress, it just repels men. Or even if you're a man as well, the same thing can apply. It can repel a woman. And therefore, you end up being single. And some of these attributes that you have, those physical attributes or even characteristics that you have that's repelling the opposite sex and not really making you a desirable candidate for marriage. Unfortunately, the church don't even speak about the importance of looking put together or character refinement enough, that there's many within the church that are just going around willy-nilly having bad attitudes and bad dress senses. No one is checking them. No one can talk to them anyhow. You know, no one can talk to them. No one can correct them in love, because you're judging them. That people carry this on, and 1 year past they're single, another year past they're single, and it just goes on and on and on. Guys, that brings us to the end of the video. Please leave your gems down below. What do you think about this video? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you share this video with at least one friend. Have a good day. Ray.